It's crazy. I've got all sorts of stuff for you. There's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, we have to talk about how taxing grocery stores is going to make things less expensive. What? This is Justin Trudeau saying, let me be clear, in his anti-vaxxer growly voice. Here we go.
And let me be very clear. If their plan doesn't provide real relief for the middle class and people working hard to join it, then we will take further action, and we are not ruling anything out, including tax measures.
Tax measures. Tax measures? What? What a crazy idea. Because taxes, if something costs more and you want to run your business at like a 3% margin or something to that effect, and these taxes are going to screw with that, somehow those costs have to get passed on to somebody. And the somebody who those costs get passed on to is either the producer, or like you say, I'm going to give you $1.28 for that dozen eggs. And the producer says, I need $1.60. And you say, well, I'm going to give you $1.28. That's all I got. Or you pass it on to the consumer, right? The customer, right? And so what are they going to do if the government is going to be taxing them and they say these taxes are meant to reduce the price of our groceries in Canada? That doesn't make any sense, right? While at the same time, removing taxes on apartment builds, because they understand that taxes on apartment builds make it more expensive to build apartments. So they're incentivizing building apartments by removing the tax, dropping the cost of building these things. Wow, right? Just crazy. Here is Franco Tetruzano, I probably got his name wrong, and he's talking about this. Here we go.
Breaking news, folks. It looks like Trudeau is threatening a grocery store tax. It sounds too crazy to believe, but I just finished watching a press conference where he said he's going to bring grocery store owners to Ottawa, and they got to come up with a plan to lower grocery prices. And if they can't come up with the plan that Trudeau likes, he says he might impose, quote, tax measures. Can you believe that? Like, what do you think that means? You think that means Trudeau's going to lower taxes? Well, I think that means he's going to bring in a grocery store tax, a tax on groceries. Well, here's a problem. Taxes aren't going to make groceries more affordable. It's Trudeau's carbon tax that's making groceries more expensive, making it more expensive for farmers to use natural gas or propane on their farms, making it more expensive for the truck driver that delivers groceries to the store, more expensive to fill up their big rig with diesel. And when Trudeau's carbon tax makes it more expensive for farmers to produce food and truckers to deliver food, he's making it more expensive for you to buy the food. So we got to fight back on this. No way can we allow a federal government to even muse about a grocery store tax. Instead,
they're musing. They're musing very publicly right now. He just said, I'm going to impose a grocery store tax. Dr. Jacobs, and I don't like Dr. Jacobs. I just thought, I was scrolling through and I saw this all caps. He's very angry, it seems. He says, you have added a tax to everything necessary to produce, process, package, and transport groceries. You are the problem. Everybody sees this clearly except Trudeau and the people standing behind him here. Chrystia Freeland, is she getting ready for Halloween? She's looking very witchy. I also noticed not the red dress, right? It's after Labor Day. I'm not sure. Corey Morgan says Trudeau will be just as successful in forcing grocery retailers to lower prices as he was in forcing Meta to carry Canadian news. Oh, right. I love it. That was very solid. Here's Jagmeet Singh singing the same tune as Justin Trudeau at exactly the same time. You know what he's going to do Monday? He's going to introduce a bill that talks about grocery store profits, etc. When they're talking about price in percentages or the number in percentage, you know that their profits is very, very small. Like they increased their profits by 52%. So it's like they went from 230 to 465 or something like that, right? So maybe not even that high. No, 50%. So it'd be $1. So 230 to 335 or something like that. So anyway, regardless, pretty wild that Jagmeet Singh is talking about profits and denigrating these grocery store people, but ignoring the fact that his policies are propping up a government and carbon tax that make everything more expensive for everybody, right? Everything more expensive for everybody. Not to mention the immigration, which is making rent more expensive for everybody. Not to mention the printing they did, the money printing they did during COVID that's making inflation and the affordability crisis making things too expensive for everybody. Holy smoke.
Sobeys, one of the large corporate grocery stores in Canada, just posted a 52% increase in profits in the first quarter on food alone. Now, this comes as no surprise, as Canadians have felt the impact of high grocery prices. While people are experiencing this real struggle, Justin Trudeau says that Canadians are grumbling. Well, they got a lot to grumble about. These greedy CEOs are posting record profits while Canadians are having the hardest time ever to buy their groceries. But what we have to do is take on the corporate greed that is driving up the cost of food. That is a major driver. But here's the problem. We know that Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre are going to back up their big money donors. They're not going to want to take them on. When we call the CEOs of these corporate grocery stores, we summon them to Parliament. We called them to Parliament. Neither Justin Trudeau or Pierre Poilievre showed up. And so we're going to do something about it. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to introduce a law that's going to take on the gouging that's going on by these corporate grocery stores. And if this law passes, and it will only pass if Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre support it, if it passes, it will bring down the cost of food.
I don't believe anything he says. Why does Poilievre and Justin Trudeau need to support it? They've got a de facto majority. They could just walk in and pass this bill if it's actually going to reduce the cost of food, but it's not going to do that. That's unless he's talking about removing the carbon tax. This is blaming the grocery store CEOs for the problems caused by the politicians' policies. I hope isn't going to make the Canadian public forget who's actually responsible. Do you think it's going to make the Canadian public forget? I honestly, at this point, I don't even know, because I've seen a lot of people wearing masks. And I've seen a lot of people not questioning the idea that boosters are necessary, et cetera, or not necessarily necessary, but they're not upset that the Ontario government, for example, is recommending boosters when we know that they give myocarditis. Like, there are adverse events to the tune of myocarditis that may cause heart attacks and blood clots. So you would think that they would stop promoting this product that doesn't work, right? But no, and it's not even really tested. So like there's all sorts of very interesting things that I see that lead me to believe that maybe, just maybe, if you repeat it, if you say it louder, people will totally believe you, right? If you just keep telling people that it's the greedy grocery store people. Like, the profit margins on running a grocery store business, the profit margins on Rogers are much better, because they don't have to do anything. They just have to buy infrastructure and make sure the infrastructure works. Like, and it's not that that's easy, but the product itself, I don't know that it costs that much money to once you've laid the infrastructure for it, et cetera, right? Like, I just think the profit margins on Rogers or, media companies or all sorts of different profit margin places, when you compare to a grocery store, like a software as a service, somebody who owns a website, like the profit margins they're looking at, they're not looking at 3%, man. I'm telling you, like 3%. They're like, why are you even bothering? You're scraping by. I know it's a volume business. I get it, right? They're selling a lot, right? Like, if your product costs $1,000, then you don't need to sell too many of them to make $5,000. Whereas if your product costs $100, you need to sell 10 times as many, right? So like, that's the crux of it, volume versus whatever. But and you could volume versus high price, but like, it seems to me that people will just go along with this. People will just listen to what he's saying and not be critical in their thinking. They'll be like, yeah, those greedy grocery store CEOs, man. And can you believe the price of gas? Unrelated. Like, what? It's not unrelated. Okay. Pierre Poilievre says he doesn't get it. Justin Trudeau doesn't get it. He doesn't need to do more. He needs to stop doing lists, stop hiking taxes, stop printing money, stop inflating interest rates, stop censoring speech, stop banning hunting rifles, to name a few. So, and this is news that there's work to do. Trudeau on resigning amid tanking poll numbers. He wants to stay on and do work. Melanie Joly is talking about the housing and all the rest of it. She says, we know that too many families are finding it difficult to make ends meet. That's why we're taking action to drive down the cost of homes, supporting the growth of small businesses, and driving down the price of groceries. They're not driving down the price of groceries. They've tripled the price of homes. And supporting the growth of small businesses, They're telling large businesses like Meta, you guys need to subsidize Canadian news. And when Meta says no, they're demonizing them in the press. What company in their right mind would come to Canada? Honestly, I've seen YouTubers say, I got to get out of Canada, man. This place is ridiculous. You can't have free speech in this place, right? And people are honestly, genuinely concerned about the censorship that's going on. Bill C-18 has led to Rebel News being censored and talking about and hawking VPNs, right? And I think that's weird, right? It's weird. And like True North has all sorts of different ways because their business has been impacted by the Facebook ban, et cetera. And so it's interesting to me that people are tolerating these crackdowns while Melanie Joly is saying we're supporting the growth of small business. No, they are not. They're doing the opposite of that. It is not a business-friendly environment when people are cracking down on things and saying, you know who's really at fault here? Greedy CEOs. That's anti-business. Very anti-business. Let's talk about housing because it's all kind of in the affordability realm. Mr. Surveillance says, you've never seen anything like this throughout Canadian history. Want to see how desperately eager media is to promote Trudeau? Click the following link and you see how in 5 seconds after Liberals announced that they'll cut GST on housing builds, they all got to it. So everybody's saying, oh, look, the Liberals are cutting GST on housing. Laurie Goldstein says, oh, now there's new ones, and it just refreshed. But where's Laurie here? Sorry, hold on, let me see. So there's a bunch of responses that are talking about this. Angus Memes says the federal government will remove GST on construction of new rental apartment buildings. Prime Minister Trudeau announced Thursday, a move he first promised in the election that brought the Liberals to power. So that was a while ago, right? Here is Mayor Ken Sim. He's talking about this. This is the MP who can't afford a house, right? Remember her? The other day, she's talking about this. The federal government will remove GST from the construction of new rental apartment buildings. I still can't afford a house, but, rental apartment buildings can get built. Yay. Bonnie Crombie's weighing in. Mayor, what's his name? Scott Gilliam weighs in. So all of the usual suspects. This is like activate all assets. And previous to this, and I don't know where it is now, but Laurie Goldstein, there he is. He's talking about this as well. Liberals in 2015, we will eliminate GST on new capital investments in affordable rental housing. 2017, Liberals drop pledge to waive GST for new rental housing constructions. Liberals in 23, federal government to remove GST from construction of new rental apartments. Whew. Man, resuscitating those old election promises is how you breathe new life into a campaign, right? And all of the usual suspects from the newspaper journalism world are getting in on this as well. Brian Lilly's talking about this. He says, I applaud this move. House of Commons staffers in on it as well. Doug Ford says something about it. Laurie Goldstein reports it. Corey Morgan reports it. They're all reporting it like, oh, it's a revelation. So reduce taxes to stimulate build, right? Reduce taxes to reduce costs to stimulate building, and increase taxes to punish greedy CEOs to make grocery store prices lower. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous. Laurie Goldstein says, so the Trudeau government is going to increase the affordable housing by eliminating a tax, the GST on housing, and then lowering the price of groceries by imposing a new tax on grocery stores if they won't lower their prices. We need a carrot and a stick. Lower the prices or we'll hit you with this stick. No, the carrot is lower your prices. Danielle Smith says, just when we had enough of the carbon tax, Ottawa has decided to introduce new tax on homes. New home builds will cost at least $35,000 more for families in Alberta, $71,000 in Ontario due to new green requirements. We need all Canadians, especially young Canadians, to start speaking up on affordable housing, on affordable future where home ownership is available to more people, not less. And we're here now and nobody can afford to buy a home. And the only solution is more immigration. That's it. That's the only thing that anybody's willing to discuss anyway. Here's Justin Trudeau, and he says, the promise of Canada is about every generation reaching higher than the previous one. Our job as a government, as a team, is to secure that promise, says Trudeau as he announces GST removal on new rental apartment buildings and a suite of affordability measures. I always like to kind of watch Freeland in the background because I don't know if it's involuntary. It seems very voluntary.
Today,
but her facial expressions and all the rest, I don't think we need to listen to this. We don't need to listen to this. It's a 5-minute speech. And I couldn't deal with listening to Justin Trudeau this morning. I was like, Nope. I'm going to move on. Click, click, click. I thought I'll listen to it later. And usually I'll put it on in the background because I'm just I'm listening for a clip that I can show you guys that kind of encapsulates what the video is about. And so I'll move on. And then I'll come back to find out where the clip that I'm going to show you is. And I didn't even start it. I was like, I'll listen to it at the end. And then I never did. So sorry about that. But it's just the announcement. Like we've seen enough. We've seen enough. The clip was already clipped in an earlier Twitter clip. And so we've seen enough Trudeau for today. Ron is talking about the nothingness of Trudeau's housing announcement. Yesterday, they made a housing announcement as well, and people pushed back and said, you're not really announcing anything new. And they had to backpedal and say, well, there'll be more announcements too. But anyway, Ron is critical, and he says, Trudeau's big housing announcement equals nothing. Let's break it down. The Liberal caucus in London, Ontario for a retreat. The Liberals are experiencing their worst poll results in 9 years and are in deep trouble about housing. So a major announcement on housing happens. Except nothing actually happened. The $70 million plus towards 2,000 housing units in London, coincidence, is not new. It's the result of 18-month-old Housing Accelerator Fund. All that's happened is London's application to the fund was approved. This is ridiculous, just silly. The real announcement was the formation of the Accelerator Fund 18 months ago. This is just writing of a check. Oh, except it isn't really. It may take another 2 years for all the planning and approvals to be done. Could be 3 years before they break ground, because that money may not even change hands for years. The real problem is federal government is now using fake communication initiatives instead of fixing a housing crisis. They're now doing this. They just started doing this. They didn't just start doing this. The fake communication initiatives happen every single... Marco Mendicino is a fake communication initiative, okay? He goes into the House of Commons and he says, what do you want me to say today, boss? And Justin Trudeau, or one of his PBO acolytes, or PMO acolytes, excuse me, tells Marco Mendicino what to say, and Marco Mendicino goes out and says it. Just like, and Mark Gerritsen, same thing. Apparently Mark Gerritsen hasn't been in a Liberal caucus photo for a while. People have noticed his absence in successive Liberal caucus photos, but he keeps showing up to work. So there's kind of a media meme being talked about there, like the Liberals don't value Mark Gerritsen. Anyway, it's so funny. Like, this is not new, this fake communication initiative. This is the MO of the Liberals. That is what the Liberals do. Back to the tweet. This announcement was billed as a never seen before developer initiative, which was a lie, because they saw it before. We've all seen it before. This was the first approval for an existing program for municipalities that will take years to unfold, and it's very small potatoes with no crucial impact on the crisis at all. But the most dangerous thing is what just happened: fake announcements. This wasn't major at all. This was nothing. The massive jeopardy for Canada is that our federal government may choose to use fake announcements as their housing strategy. They are using fake announcements as their everything strategy. They will tell you anything you want to hear. They're going to be the best and most equitable, most equal, best economy. You name it, ramalama ding dong. They're going to do the whole thing, right? And you just have to say, you're not telling us the truth, and you've been lying for years, and it seems you're incompetent, and purposely so. Like, you're purposely incompetent because you want to bankrupt us? I'm not sure. They don't have good intentions, and that's clear from their... Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful